Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Litter Media Live. This is our special edition for today. I'm your host, Mike Smith, and joining us today, we have the new Executive Director of the Ross County Historical Society, Darren Baker. I say new, you've been on the job for a few months now, but new to us as far as our first opportunity. Our interview with Darren is brought to you by Classic Brands. Back with Darren Baker right after this.
Budweiser beer, the king is second to none.
Who drinks Budweiser? You know the type. The people who grind. Those who don't back down. And the ones who don't quit. They say all people are 6 degrees of separation away from each other. But some are just a six-pack away. The people who share the same spirit, share the same beer. This Bud's for you.
We're back with Darren Baker, again, the Executive Director of the Ross County Historical Society. Darren, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I've been with the Ross County Historical Society now for about 6 months, and it's been an exciting 6 months. There have been a lot of things happening recently, so a lot of things happening in the future.
When you first came on board, we had a story on our website at littermedia.com. Anybody wants to go back that on our website and look that up and get a little bit more background. But since you're here in person, let's talk about your background. What were you up to before you came to this position?
Yeah, so I started in the museum field a long time ago at the Southern Ohio Museum in Portsmouth, and went through work there while I was in college. I graduated from Shawnee State. I'm a true Southern Ohio guy. Left there, went to design museums for Hilferty and Associates outside of Athens. Design museums all over the country, really. Some pretty cool stuff. Some stuff not so cool, but nonetheless, there's lots of cool stuff. And then, went back to the museum in Portsmouth to build and install a collection of prehistoric Native American artifacts down there. The Wirtz collection is an exhibit called Art of the Ancients, still up. And like a lot of things, I think in Southern Ohio, you go for a short time and then you end up staying for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I was there, and then I joined the faculty at Ohio University. I've been there for the past 10 years, about part-time up here at the Chillicothe campus and part-time in Athens. And whenever I saw this opportunity come up, I thought, hey, I could go back to the museum world. It's like going home.
So being in Portsmouth, and even in Athens, you know the history of this community.
Oh, yeah. It's very much embedded, I think, in the landscape around us, too. I mean, you just look around. I mean, of course, everybody's talking about UNESCO right at the moment, and that history embedded in the landscape there. But, look everywhere else. Where I grew up right off of 104. The Ohio Erie Canal ran right through our front yard. That history's embedded all around us.
Yeah. With, of course, Chillicothe being the first and third capital of the state of Ohio, things kind of sprung out from there. But even before statehood, the Northwest Territory. And having been in these other locations, what is it specifically about Chillicothe, Ross County that said, hey, I'd like to spend some time up there? You
know what? Right now, Chillicothe has so many interesting things going on right now. The downtown's fantastic to hang out in, and all of that sort of thing. But I think historically, obviously, the prehistoric Native American artifacts, and in particular, indigenous people culture. Chillicothe has been the hub of culture for a very long time, for eons in that way. And so, all you have to do is dig just a little bit deeper, right? No matter where you go, whether it's walking down Water Street and you dig a little bit deeper and you find out the Ohio Erie Canal went through there, or you walk down on the southern part of the county and you're starting to look through the creek banks and you see the history embedded in there. There's just so much stuff that happened for a very long time, and those stories are fascinating to me. I'm very much a story person. So,
like anything else, we've discovered this over the years with the Hopewell Culture site. history museums, not only in Chillicothe, Ross County, but all over the country. These things literally are in our backyard, but there's probably a surprisingly large percentage of people that have never stepped inside there. Yeah. Talk about some of the things that they're missing.
No, well, yeah, there's a lot, right? I've been working with the people at the National Park Service, the Mound City Group. If you've never been, go there. That's a truly incredible, moving experience. And I was in a meeting not too long ago with Chief Glenna Wallace of the Eastern Shawnee, and I love something that she said. When you walk through Mound City Group, imagine it as walking through Arlington Cemetery, because that's the kind of hush, the kind of calm that comes over you there. It is a truly spectacular experience. Ross County is filled with those kinds of experiences. Some of them are hidden. A lot of those mound complexes have been plowed over and planted on top of. And, the folks over at the end of Bellevue and Plyley's at the Junction Earthworks and Steel Earthworks, I love that idea of being able to bring them up with natural plants. That's a spectacular idea. They're all over the place. So we know a lot of the mounds from Squire and Davis, right? Yep. The ancient monuments of the Mississippi Valley. If you don't know what that is, look that book up. We actually have Davis's copy of that book at the Historical Society. Wow. Yeah. They were Chillicothe residents. They're right here. When you look that up, you'll see we have the largest concentration of earthworks in Southern Ohio, probably in all of Ohio. It's just an amazing place. They're everywhere. Unfortunately, a lot of that has been lost, right? And I think the work that Glenna Wallace and some of the other tribal leaders of bringing that kind of knowledge back is incredible, and I hope to be a contributing party to that in the future. I'd love to bring that and uncover more of that knowledge. That kind of ingenuity, these people were geniuses, so that's incredible. But, one other interesting part about that is, in that backyard part that you said there. Many years ago, I traveled to London, and I went through the British Museum. I'm a museum person, and everywhere I go in museums. But I was going through the British Museum, and we're going through the ancient cultures, and we've got the Romans at one point, we've got the Greek culture at another point, and then we've got the Ross County right next to it. Right. And they have a huge collection of artifacts that came from our area, and that really gives you a sense of history in our backyard, right?
I just turned 64 the other day, but when I was a kid, back then, one of the field trips that we took as an elementary student was to the Ross County Historical Society. Do they still do that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have, in the spring, it's a busy time. We have a lot of students coming through. At a very short period of time. It's kind of a chaotic scene, but it's fun. And I would love to have those students come back, right? One of those things every day we hear, a couple particular quotes. We hear, it's bigger than we thought it was, right? Because we're 7 buildings big. And we're continuing to grow. It's a truly extraordinary collection. Sometimes I refer to it as the Smithsonian of Ross County. So we get that. We get, I've never been here before. This is a hidden gem, and it is truly a hidden gem. And then we get that sort of, I was here in 3rd grade and I haven't been back.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So like the first thing, as soon as I came on board at the Ross County Historical Society, was open up those doors, get people in here, get the community involved in here. So I've been trying to touch every organization in Ross County and open those doors up in all kinds of different ways. Yeah.
For our viewers, and if you've watched this program, the interviews that we've done in the past, some of the news stories we've done, maybe even some of our YouTube features, you'll remember that there, as Darren just said, this is a 7-building complex that's the Ross County Historical Society. But sometimes when we're featuring a certain segment, let's say Camp Sherman, the World War I camp, or the Worthingtons, or just whatever the case may be, sometimes when you see that piece, you get the impression, well, that's all that museum's about. No, those are just components of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So our main sort of headquarters, if you want to call it that, is the Ross County Heritage Center. And there's one part of that about that I'd highlight, that it's Ross County, not Chillicothe.
Yeah.
Right? Even though Chillicothe is a major part of that, it's Ross County. And there are some incredible things that happen outside in the county. I hope to highlight a lot more of those. But in that Heritage Center, we have the McKell Library, which is a true gem in the history, really, of Ohio, but also, worldwide. We have all sorts of incredible rare books, incredible children's books, sometimes the only copy that exists. We have the David Meade Massey Hall, where we have all of our horse-drawn vehicles, which are truly wonderful, The first taxi in Chillicothe is there. And then we have the McClintock House, which is set up as a house museum, and we have exhibits on, like you said, Camp Sherman, Civil War in the Enderlands. We have, historic toys, the prehistoric Native American cultures and the collections that we have, the Ohio Erie Canal. We have this amazing model railroad complex, this little model set up of Chillicothe when we had the roundhouse down here and all of that. We have a couple of local volunteers that come in, and I tease them that they come in and fill up the steam chambers and grease all the axles and stuff, but they run it for us. We had them down this past weekend for our holiday event. Yeah, it really is sort of a little snippet of everything happening across Ross County.
When you tell some of the younger generation that at one time there were automobiles that were manufactured in Chillicothe, well, you have.
Oh, yeah. We have the Logan, right? The Logan, which was built right around the corner from us, actually. The Chillicothe Civic Theater now is their scene shop in the old factory there. The Logan, we have supposedly the only existing full copy of those, of that Logan automobile. Now, if there's somebody out there that's watching this and they have parts of a Logan, bring them on down. I'd love to be proved wrong there. But we have that. Chillicothe also had the R-Bins, which we don't have a copy, and nobody knows where one exists. Oh, wow. So we have a great photograph of William Taft as he was coming through on his presidential campaign, coming through Chillicothe, riding in an R-Bins. Yeah. I would love to have a copy of that, because that's an incredible story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just passed off a book for you to look at that Dan Ramey had talked to you about. There's probably things like that, of different kinds of histories that are out there. Are you interested if somebody finds in their attic some piece of history like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm a story person. And I really feel like the objects, the artifacts that we have of history, those are just sort of the evidence of these stories happening, right? So I'm interested in the story. I want to tell the story of all those things. At the Historical Society right now, we have a lot of exhibits that come up to World War I. But there's a whole lot of really interesting stories that happened after that,
right.
And I would love to know all about it. Things like, I was just talking with Joe Herlihy about some military memorabilia from his father, which is an incredible story, and I hope to feature that this coming year. That was right after the Korean War. My father was in the military during Vietnam, and I would love to tell the story of some of those soldiers coming back. Chillicothe has a really rich history of military history in particular. But of course, there are all those schools, we look around, we see all these wonderful architecture in schools that are still left. But they're just embedded with stories of, basketball players that have gone on, signed with University of Kentucky and Ohio State, and as I think a lot of people around here say, that state up north that nobody mentions, right? I really don't know that much about sports, but I know that one.
Yeah,
I know that joke. So at any rate, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to tell those kinds of stories.
Of course, we talk about the Historical Society, but the center, the Heritage Center, what are the dates, the hours that you're open?
Okay, well, we're open to the public for tours Tuesday through Saturday, 1 to 5. Just come on down to, we're at 45 West 5th Street, so the one way that goes right between us and the library. Just come to that front door. We have docents there all the time. So whenever you come in, you'll be greeted by one of the docents. They'll take you on a personalized tour around our facility, and that can go as long as you want, right? So, like I said, we have a lot of things to talk about. So we have all of those museums. We also have a log house right there on the property that is set up pioneer days. We have this wonderful cook-in kitchen where we have school groups come in. Jamie Bliven, our curator, just had an event not too long ago where he worked with local STEM students in that log house where they were making cornbread on an open fire. Maybe not STEM, but I think it's still pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Of course, those are the regular days and hours, but I know from time to time you have special programming that you offer the community.
Absolutely. So next Thursday evening, 6:30, the 21st at 6:30, we have Tom O'Grady coming up from the Southeast Ohio History Center to talk about barn architecture, which is, one of those things. I'm a mechanical person, so anything about construction, anything about how things move, how things exist, I love that sort of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to him coming up. That's part of a speaker series, a lecture series that we have every year. We have speakers come in the spring and speakers come in the fall. I'd like to do that more. But we have him coming in next week. We also have a junior members program. Where we have school-age kids coming in. Next Friday, we have an event for them coming in, and Jamie Bliven runs that program, and he does a great job.
Speaking of the junior memberships, for regular memberships, this is something I think our Dan Ramey is a member. He gets a copy of the recorder. That comes out monthly or quarterly?
It's quarterly. Quarterly, yeah.
But there's usually different features that you have, and this one is Christmas with Barbie.
Yeah, that was a wonderful exhibit that was set up with our board president, Dana Martinko. Where this past Saturday, we had our holiday open house, and we had an exhibit in our portrait gallery. And it made kind of sense to have Barbie in our portrait gallery. And we had, those dolls from the beginning, from the early 50s all the way up to being produced right now. It is the year of the Barbie, right? Even though I'm not seeing the movie, but nonetheless, I understand the importance. And then we had an aluminum Christmas tree, one of those wonderful 1950s Christmas trees. One of the things that I'm trying to do while I'm there is to bring some of those objects out of our collections. So in celebration of Barbie, we went through our collections and pulled out any kind of pink clothing.
Sure.
Barbie's pink, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so we have a number of mannequins up with this wonderful historic clothing. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
When you came in, I was talking about, having been through the museum a number of times, and you said, but you haven't probably seen what's in the back rooms, and that's where you keep a lot of that historical stuff in not in hiding, but protecting it.
Yeah. Well, a big part of our mission is the preservation of those objects. So there's all kinds of methods for preserving things, and it goes from, it's very different whenever you're talking about preserving a historic book versus a historic automobile, right? And whenever we really kind of consider our buildings as the largest part of our collections, right? So we have art archives. Our library archives books, right? So we have a wonderful research library. So if you move into town and you buy one of those historic homes and you wonder, gee, who lived here? Come on down. We have archivists that can do that sort of thing. We have all of that written history. It was fascinating the other day. Pat Meddert, who is our archivist, who is a true local gem.
She is.
We were celebrating her birthday. Her birthday's today. Happy birthday, Pat.
Hey,
Pat. She pulled me aside and she said, look at this. And she had a handmade textbook, arithmetic textbook from 1802.
Oh, my.
That is just beautiful penmanship. Of course, none of it was printed. Right. So it was all these word problems written down. And this one word problem in particular was pretty hilarious, honestly. But we have that sort of stuff everywhere. But then we have a major collection of historic uniforms from military. We have historic clothing. I'm working right now with Jamie Bliven and Dana Martinko on a quilt book, a book about our quilt book, our quilt collection. Which is what we're talking about.
Sure.
And that's one of those objects. So every day, right on the front of the recorder, we're talking about a quilt that came in the other day from some local donors that was made in Adelphi. Right, and it's a very specific kind of quilt, but it's a beautiful, beautiful quilt. And they were wondering about preserving it and all of those sorts of things. It's a beautiful thing. So we have stuff like that come in every day, and believe me, we're willing to take it. We want to tell the story of every citizen in Ross County.
For our viewers that might not remember, we did a YouTube feature. Golly, it was a year and a half or two ago, where it was a quilt show that was up for a number of months there at the Historical Center, and you can go back on our Litter Media YouTube and see some of that. Well, people that know me know I love I could talk all day with you about this, but I know you're a busy guy and you got some other things you got to take care of, but hopefully we can get you back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And keep us plugged in to any of the special programming that you have.
Will do.
All right.
Thank you.
Our Executive Director of the Ross County Historical Society, Darren Baker, our guest today on a special edition of Litter Media Live, today brought to you by Classic Brands. I'm Mike Smith.